our esteemed speakers, friends and partners in Asia, guests from around the world, a pleasant afternoon and mabuhay. It is my pleasure to be your moderator for today's webinar. I am Jamie Shaliman, and on behalf of the Philippine Board of Investments, allow me to welcome you to the Philippines, Asia's partner towards economic recovery. A year-end economic briefing organized by the Philippine Board of Investment, an attached agency of the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI. We are much honored to have with us today high-level officials from the DTI and the National Economic Development Authority, or NEDA, to brief us on the Philippines' recent economic developments, outlook, and recovery programs, as well as on the vast investment opportunities in the Philippines. Executive experiences in doing business in the Philippines. The event will run for an hour and a half, and we encourage you to submit or send your questions anytime within the said duration in the Q&A box. We have our account officers who will answer them. And in any case we are unable to answer all of your queries, rest assured that we will reach out to you after the webinar. Now, to formally begin, it is my great honor and privilege to welcome His Excellency, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, to give his opening message.
For the Asian market entitled The Philippines, Asia's Partner in Post-Pandemic Recovery. I welcome this meeting which brings together all sectors in our country to ensure that we accelerate our country's recovery, growth, and to ensure that we accelerate our country's economic growth and recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. May this occasion lead to more responsive interventions and to allow the entire nation to build back better and make progress more accessible to our people. I wish you a successful event.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that message and for gracing us with your presence today. To give us his welcoming remark and provide updates on the trade and investment relations of the Philippines with Asia, DTI's rebuild strategy, and the role of Create Law in the country's pursuit towards economic recovery. Please welcome the Secretary of the Philippine Department of Trade and Industry, Mr. Ramon M. Lopez.
His Excellency Rodrigo Roa Duterte, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, NEDA Undersecretary Rosemary Edelion, to our DTI Undersecretary and BOI Managing Head, Perry Rodolfo, to the business leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Asia and the Philippines, my colleagues from government, ladies and gentlemen, good day to you all. I hope everyone is keeping themselves safe and healthy during this time. Strong trade and investment relations with Asia, as well as on our strategies and programs for continuous post-pandemic recovery. Just like other economies, the Philippines was greatly affected by the pandemic. While this disrupted our growth momentum, we are already seeing signs of recovery. For instance, the Philippines' total merchandise trade for the first to third quarter of 2021 amounted to 140.5 billion US dollars, up by 25% from 112.3 billion US dollars recorded in the first to third quarter of 2020. Total exports grew by 18% to $55.68 billion in the first to third quarter of 2021, while total imports increased by 30.3% to $84.87 billion in the first to third quarter of 2021 as economic activities rebounded, which required capital and intermediate goods. This demonstrates, among other factors, the strong and stable Philippine economy and the resilient nature of the Filipinos, the main drivers of the country's success. We are also glad to note that we have our international partners working with us to build back a better Philippines. The Asian region, in particular, has always been our strongest and largest partner in trade and investments. Despite the economic disruptions brought about by the pandemic, Asia continues to be our top trading partner. Based on the list of our top trade from Asia, with a cumulative trade value of $104.5 billion, or 74.3% share of our country's total trade. This posted a 26.3% increase, 2% growth from the recorded $32.5 billion for the comparable period of 2020. Likewise, our imports from Asian partners increased by 33.4% to 67 billion, with a sizable share of almost 79%. I would also like to highlight that during the pandemic period, the Philippines did not impose import nor export restrictions. In fact, the importation of health equipment and supplies deemed critical or needed to address the COVID-19 public health emergencies was given exemption from duties, taxes, and fees. Some import requirements were also streamlined. In particular, tariff rates or other import licensing requirements were even removed or adjusted for other products and commodities. Our Asian neighbors have truly played a huge role as we tide over the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Our top five trading partners in Asia per merchandise trade alone, namely China, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Thailand, recorded a total of 70.8 billion US dollars trade value, which already comprised half of the country's total external trade in goods for the first three semesters of 2021. On the investment side, foreign investors continue to stand by the Philippines in the middle of the health crisis. Cumulative foreign direct investments as of September posted 7.3 billion US dollars. This is 43.8% higher than the $5.1 billion recorded from January to September of last year, and even higher by 24% over pre-pandemic 2019 FDI levels, once again signifying real growth. It is also noteworthy to emphasize that we have risen from sixth to fourth rank among our fellow ASEAN countries for FDI inflows. We value our investors and provide them with assistance in resolving different issues, concerns, and queries. We have ensured that the movement of cargo and people remained unhampered during the pandemic, even at the height of the lockdowns last year and this year. We have fast-tracked the release of permits and our licenses and issued the Interagency Task Force IDs for DTI-covered enterprises. We assisted foreign manufacturers and exporters at the height of the lockdowns, enabling them to continue their factory operations and even helping them with transportation for their employees. We also facilitated travel ban exemptions for personnel essential to their operations. As we continue to work towards the safe reopening of the economy, the way forward for us is to build back better and to stay the course to have a better future for our country. Our goal is for Filipinos to have a modern, dynamic, and responsible Philippines. To maximize our gaining momentum, we have embarked on a vision towards stronger and sustained economic recovery anchored on a strategy called Rebuild. And Rebuild stands for revitalizing businesses, investments, livelihoods, and domestic demand. Revitalizing consumption to boost demand, and empowering production capacities such as those in agriculture, industry, and services to meet the recovery in demand. This creates more investments, jobs, and income, creating a virtuous cycle of sustained and growing economic activity with strong domestic linkages. On the demand side, it starts with the government support via economic stimulus to keep the jobs. This is achieved through our CIGX minus M strategy, which you can see on our slides as flash. Or specifically, this strategy pertains to encouraging strengthened consumer expenditure, continuously attracting investments, increasing government expenditure like the Build program, and further boosting our exports and managing imports. On the supply side, we seek to enhance production capacities in agriculture, industry, and services sector to fulfill the demand side growth and help build our export competitiveness and manage imports. This is important to attract more production activities and create a better business environment for investments. To ensure continuity of business operations, our government had enacted various initiatives and reforms. One of these include our government-wide response to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte's Prime Directive to enhance the ease of doing business through streamlining and automation. The Ease of Doing Business Act of 2018 was established to eliminate overregulation to promote efficiency and government processes. In line with this, the Central Business Portal was launched, which serves as a platform for citizens and business owners to access forms and requirements for business registration. This is on top of the existing gov.ph site, which is a single window uniting all web-based government content and services. All these initiatives aim to reduce processing time for government transactions, permits, and licenses. Furthermore, with the Department of Trade and Industry's digital transformation initiatives, our critical services are made accessible online. These include services for business name registration, which can be done online in 8 minutes, the issuance of import commodity clearance or ICC, or the issuance of Philippine Standard or PS license, or the license renewal through the Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board, or PICAB. So these are now done online. To further facilitate ease of doing business, we have expanded the provision of internet services through inclusive access to satellite services. Executive Order number 127 allows value-added services providers and internet service providers registered with the National Telecommunications Commission to have direct access to all satellites, enables them to build and operate broadband facilities that offer internet services. These enhanced interconnection now allows private sector employees to work from alternative workplaces with the use of current technology and telecommunications. The Telecommuting Act, also referred to as Work from Home law, seeks to protect the rights and welfare of workers in light of new and alternative avenues enabled by the latest communications technologies that allow employees to perform their work from their homes. As our economy recovers, we are confident of reviving our pre-pandemic growth. To this end, we are facilitating greater trade and investment in the country by continuously pursuing reforms to foster a better business environment. That is why we have realized the game-changing corporate recovery and tax incentives for enterprises, more popularly known as the CREATE Act, making the investment climate in the Philippines significantly more attractive. The CREATE Act rationalizes, modernizes, and offers more relevant incentives to investors. This reduces the corporate income tax rate from 30% to 25% for large corporations and down to 20% for micro SMEs. CREATE likewise improves the investment incentives regime with longer income tax holidays and special corporate income tax rates for eligible projects. Meanwhile, under the Strategic Investment Priorities Plan, SIPP, under CREATE, we have identified industries for the grant of incentives to attract high-value, high-tech projects that will create more jobs and further boost the Philippines' competitiveness in the global market. The length of incentives that would be offered to corporations or investors will depend on their tier classification based on their levels of technology and location, especially those far from urban centers. We likewise support the advancement of various reforms that will ease foreign ownership restrictions through legislations such as the Retail Trade Liberalization Act, which is now for signature of the President, the Foreign Investment Act that just passed the bicameral committee, and the Public Service Act, which is undergoing deliberation at the Senate plenary. The latter is vital to allowing greater competition in sectors such as telecommunications, which will result in better interconnectivity and telco services. Before I end my message, I would like to emphasize that, firstly, while the Philippines indeed experienced its largest contraction in history in 2020, the country, on the other hand, posted the strongest rebound in the third quarter of 2021 with 7.1% growth, the fastest in the Southeast Asian region. The year to date September growth, which is now 4.9%, making the 5.5% full year projection within striking distance. Projection for 2022 is even stronger as the country is expected to continue further reopening and easing of border controls as we reach greater population immunity through vaccination and COVID treatments. There is a clear trajectory towards recovery. Secondly, with the CREATE Act, we are in the position to offer highly competitive incentives that will sustain and help you maximize financial returns from developing local supply chain network. Third, despite the Philippines nearing its forthcoming national election, signaling a change in the administration, rest assured that the DTI will remain to be a pillar that will continue with game-changing reforms and provide the assistance needed by businesses and investments to continuously grow and prosper. This has been proven across many administrations. And finally, we encourage you to trust the Philippine government will continue to improve, innovate its business climate through ushering in new, innovative, and long-term strategic policy reforms and programs that will make it easier to do business and further encourage your investments in the country. We are ready to work with you in positioning the Philippines as an ideal business destination in the new normal. Allow us to make it happen for you in the Philippines. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you very much, Secretary Lopez, for the relevant updates you have shared with us. Moving on to our next speaker, to give us updates on the recent Philippine economic performance and outlook, please welcome NEDA Undersecretary Rosemary G. Edilion.
Good morning, everyone. For this event, I would like to share with you our latest economic recovery plan amid the COVID-19 and also beyond. Let me begin with the key messages. First of all, we are on the right track, and we hope we will stay that way. Number two, but we have to keep on learning. Every time there is a new threat, a new variant, a new mutation, and so we really have to keep learning about this COVID-19 and how to cope with it. And then let's share the lessons with the rest of the world. First, the latest socioeconomic developments, and we have to begin with the COVID-19 experience. So right now, we are already at 124 new cases per day. That's the 7-day moving average. And as you can see from this graph, we have had three surges or three waves. Um, we don't know how to call it already, but that's the so back in 2020, that was last year, we had one in around August, and then for this year we had one in April, and then in September of this year when we had the Delta variant. For the deaths, we are now down to 3.1 deaths in terms of the 7-day moving average. So again, it's been down from a very high of around 250 deaths per day. It's now down to 3.1. And this one is actually confirmed also by the low utilization rate in our hospital capacity. So what I have here is the regional health capacity utilization rates all across the regions. We are now at low risk, classified at low risk. So actually, the highest quote unquote utilization rate is in Caraga, and that's with respect to the mechanical ventilation at 36%. So um, we are we are okay. We are on the right track, and we hope we stay that way. So part of this good story, it's not, we don't call it yet a success story because it's still unfolding. But part of this good story is really the rate of the vaccination, and for the latest one that we have, we 98 million doses have already been administered. 42 million of Filipinos are now fully vaccinated. And then 55 million have been given the first dose, meaning that after a month or a month and a half from now, there will be 97 million Filipinos vaccinated against this COVID-19, and that's about 90% of the population. So we are familiar with this, or you have heard probably about this Nikkei Asia COVID-19 Recovery Index. We actually have our own scorecard, but let me just, just report on this Nikkei Asia because this is the one that really hugs the headlines every time the results come out. So this index actually compares how we are able to recover from this COVID-19. And we are being compared against 120 or 121 other countries in terms of infection management. So looking at the confirmed cases of COVID versus the peak case count, confirmed cases per capita, the tests per case, the vaccine rollouts, in terms of total vaccine doses, new vaccine doses given, and then the share of people who have been fully vaccinated. And then the mobility, looking at community mobility, the Oxford Stringency Index, meaning the rules that are in place, and then the flight activities. So we see that the vaccine rollout is given a weight of 3/9. Testing is given a weight of 1/9. The non-pharmaceutical interventions, we call them non-pharmaceutical interventions, but of course in this index, they're called restrictions. They're given a weight of 3/9. In the negative, of course, if you have the restrictions, then you are penalized in terms of this index. And then the COVID outcomes, 2/9. So this is how we have fared from September, October, and then November. So in September, we ranked 121 over 121. And then in October, we ranked 103. That's 18 notches up. And then in November, we are now in rank 57. So that's 46 notches up. And this is actually, this is what I mean when I said that we are on the right track. And let's hope that we stay that way. Even now for our own scorecard, we do not yet have the November update, and that's why I could not report to you. But we do think that we will also see a huge improvement with respect to that scorecard, wherein we are actually comparing our accomplishment versus the targets we have set with respect to infection management, vaccine rollout, and with respect to the economic recovery. So looking at our socioeconomic our economic performance, rather, with respect to the GDP. So we see here that despite tighter community restrictions in the third quarter, our economy continued to recover, growing by 7.1% in Q3 2021. Now, this one is deceptively going down between the second quarter and the third quarter, but that is really because these are actually computed as year-on-year growth rates. But if you compute for the quarter-on-quarter growth rates and taking out the impact of seasonality, the effect of seasonality, we actually see that Q3 performance is higher by 3.8% than the Q2 performance. So like I said, we are actually on the mend. We are beginning our economic recovery. So right now, nearly 100% of the economy is under alert level 2. So we have begun transitioning to this new way of imposing the restrictions. We now do not close establishments, we are just regulating capacity. So as of now, it's only Apayao actually that is on alert level 3. The rest of the country, that's 99.98%, are now in alert level 2. We are still being careful because we know that there's the Omicron variant that is just out there. Actually, they have already come in. Hopefully, it's really just the two of them and that we have really been able to contain them. Let's hope it stays that way. But like I said, we are being very, very cautious about this. So these are our medium-term targets, growth targets. But of course, for 2021, that's already an outlook. So we have actually increased the target for this year. Our growth target is only between 4 and 5% in consideration of the COVID-19. But given the strong performance in the third quarter, which we think and hope will be sustained and even improve further this fourth quarter. So we think that the GDP will grow between 5 and 5.5% this full year of 2021. 2022, it will be much stronger. In fact, we think that we will be able to recover our pre-COVID-19 levels by early 2022 or the first half of 2022 at least, and grow by 7 to 9%. And then from 2023 to 2024 to grow by 6.7%. This is our proposed 10-point policy to accelerate and sustain our economic recovery. This has already been presented in several fora, and this is supported by the entire economic team. So the first three have to do with making sure that we are able to um, address this problem of the COVID-19, well, actually manage. First is with respect to the metrics. So we need to have a different mindset right now, and we have to change our reporting of the metrics. Of course, making sure that it's timely, it's disaggregated, and that we consider also the reporting of the severe and critical cases rather than just the entire number of new cases. Next, we really need to roll out the vaccination, accelerate the rollout of vaccination, and even work towards being able to include the entire population in this vaccination drive. Three is we need to continue our health, improving our healthcare capacity. And we're not just talking about the hospitals, but also about our testing capacity, our contact tracing, our isolation facilities, and then of course the treatment facilities, also our surveillance capacity. The next four actually has to do with making sure that we continue on being able to safely reopen economy and society. So first of all, with respect to the economy and mobility, so let's make every effort to make sure that this reopening continues and it's sustained, all throughout next year and beyond, of course. And then for the schooling, we have begun the pilot face-to-face classes. I think that should now progress. Um, and then for the domestic travel, again, let's make sure, and international travel, let's make sure that all the policies that we are putting in place are risk-based, uh, and no unnecessary burdens are imposed on the travelers, because uh, we need this mobility, even this international mobility. And then the next three really has to do with making sure that we are able to sustain this economic recovery and that we will be resilient going health and medicine. So, like the WHO, other UN bodies, we need to be made aware of threats that are happening somewhere in the world because with this very high level of mobility of people and goods, then it's just a matter of time before they reach us. And then, of course, we need to mitigate the impact in case it happens. So we need to ensure food security. That's very, very important for survival. And related to that as well is we need to regularly update our registries, especially those of the vulnerable, the marginalized. And for this one, we are hoping that we will be helped a lot by the PhilSys, the national ID. We have already reached the 50 million mark, and we hope that we can accelerate this further, and then proceed with the next steps of using this for various purposes, and especially for the delivery of goods and services. Next is we need to improve health information systems. This is really be important. So at the same time that we are building up our capacity for disease surveillance, we also need to improve this health information systems. We need to ensure financial security, beginning with financial inclusion. We need to have health security. We need to be able to manufacture our own vaccines. We need to have be able to manufacture our own PPEs. And then we need to encourage innovation. Over at the NEDA, we have already identified several sectors for which we will need to encourage more of the innovation in order for us to be resilient. So I will leave you with this last slide, and just to say that we are really on the right track, but we need to keep on learning, being able to share our lessons with the rest of the world, and them sharing it, sharing also their lessons with us is one way for us to be able to sustain that recovery. But we need to be, forward looking. In case something happens, we need to be able to mitigate this impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Undersecretary Idilion, for a very informative and insightful presentation. To complement the messages mentioned by our previous speakers, with their presentation on the investment opportunities in the Philippines, let us all welcome the Undersecretary of the DTI Competitiveness and Innovation Group and BOI Governor, Dr. Rafaelita M. Aldaba.
Thank you very much. Yeah, may I just ask the Secretariat to flash my slides? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. First, allow me to thank the Board of Investments, DTI Foreign Service Corps, and the Philippine Trade and Investment Centers in Asia for this opportunity to be part of this year-end virtual economic briefing for the Asian market. I would like to share with you the country's competitive advantage and investment opportunities in the light of the reconfiguration of our global value chain participation. Next, please. Despite the challenges arising from the pandemic, the Philippines still remains a conducive place to do business. One of the key advantages of the Philippines is our demographic sweet spot and rich talent pool. The Philippines has a young population. The median age is 25 years old, and our labor force stands at around 45 million, and we produce over 700,000 graduates annually across a wide range of disciplines, including engineering and IT-related fields. Next, please. The Philippines has one of the lowest wage costs for manufacturing workers and engineers, as you can see on the slide. And based on the 2020 JETRO survey, respondents believe that compensation for workers is more reasonable in the Philippines as compared to other neighboring countries. Next, please. The services sector has contributed substantially to the country's economic growth. Within services, communications, information technology, and the related business process outsourcing or BPO industry have become the leading sectors. Even with the consistent strong performance of the services sector, human resource costs have remained competitive. Next, please. Our workforce has a high level of commitment and loyalty as indicated by the low turnover rate in the Philippines, which, as you can see on the table, is one of the lowest in the region. Next slide. Companies located in the Philippines also enjoy industrial peace. And this is indicated by the low incidence of strikes and lockouts in the country. 18 strikes were registered in 2019 and 11 in 2020. Next, please. The Philippines has a huge domestic market of 110 million people. We also offer access to the ASEAN market with more than 600 million population, as well as to other key markets through our free trade agreements and generalized system of preferences with other countries. We have an FTA with the European Free Trade Association. We also have GSP access to the UK, EU, Russia, and Canada. And we are the only country in ASEAN to benefit from the EU's Generalized System of Preferences Plus or GSP Plus. Next, please. The Philippines is also a member of the world's largest free trade deal, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or RCEP agreement that provides tremendous opportunities to strengthen regional supply chains and businesses. RCEP presents an enhanced platform for attracting investments in export-oriented manufacturing in the Philippines. And for companies from non-RCEP parties like India and Taiwan, they may optimize the benefits of RCEP by locating in the Philippines and access the markets of RCEP participating countries at a preferential tariff rate. Next, please. We finally concluded the Philippine-Korea FTA negotiations last October. With the RCEP agreement complemented by this bilateral FTA with Korea, we expect Philippine exports to be more competitive in the Korean market. An FTA is also being negotiated with the EU. Preferential trade agreements will also be negotiated with India and Chile, Pakistan, and Turkey. And we will also pursue negotiations for accession to the CPTPP. Next, please. So through the Build program, the government is committed to accelerate infrastructure spending. The Build program includes 112 infrastructure flagship projects composed of the biggest state projects. There are 92 operational public-private partnership projects in various sectors, such as power, transport, and IT. Next, please. In terms of available location, we have industrial parks, as you can see on the slide, and economic zones that are readily available for expansion and new investments. These locations have ready infrastructure and easy access to international seaports and airports and could host manufacturing activities. Next, we have a robust regulatory framework to facilitate trade in dual-purpose strategic goods. Our Strategic Trade Management Act provides regulations and guidelines for companies that intend to engage in trade of strategic goods. We have vast export opportunities, particularly in the manufacturing of high-value strategic goods in electronics, chemicals, and aerospace parts. Next, please. The government has strengthened its intellectual property enforcement and protection. And hence, we have been kept out of the US counterfeiting and piracy watch list for 8 years now. based on the Global Innovation Index, the Philippines ranked number 51 in 2020 with IP registration as one of the country's strengths. Next, please. The corporate recovery and tax incentives for enterprises or CREATE offers three types of incentives. First is an income tax holiday from 4 to 7 years. Second is a 5% special corporate income tax for 10 years for export activities. Third is enhanced deductions that will allow additional deductions on depreciation, labor expense, R&D, training, domestically manufactured inputs, including power and other expenditures. And this is going to be granted for a period of 5 years for domestic activities. CREATE will also grant duty exemption on importation of capital equipment, raw materials, spare parts, and accessories, along with VAT exemption on importations and VAT zero rating on local purchases. Next, please. The Strategic Investment Priorities Plan provides the list of priority economic activities that may avail of fiscal incentives. While the Strategic Investment Priority Plan is being finalized, we are currently using the BOI Investment Priorities Plan as the 2020 Transitional Strategic Investment Priorities Plan. As you can see on the slide, the priority sectors include COVID critical products and services, manufacturing, agro-processing, agriculture, fishery, forestry, including integrated circuit design, creative industries, maintenance, repair, and overhaul of aircraft, along with healthcare services, mass housing, infrastructure and logistics, innovation activities, environment and climate change projects, and energy projects. Next, please. Also included among our priorities are export activities and other activities covered by mandatory laws, such as industrial tree plantation, mining, publication of books, renewable energy, and tourism, among others. Next, please. We are currently value chains with focus on the following three clusters. First is the industrial manufacturing and transport, wherein we are focusing on upgrading our global value chain participation in electronics and electrical products, automotive and aerospace parts, global value chains. We are focusing on storage devices, common electromechanical products like passive components, circuit boards, and electrical equipment, along with semiconductors and test opportunities for semiconductor, including autonomous driving. The next is the technology, media, and telecommunication cluster, wherein the focus is on telecommunications infrastructure, voice, and business process outsourcing opportunities in telemedicine, pharmacovigilance, medical transcription, clinical trial management, and patient care services, along with its integration with pharmaceuticals and medical equipment. The development of these two clusters, IMT and TMT, could facilitate the emergence of a health and life science cluster in the country. Next, please. Moving on to some of the specific sectoral opportunities, the Philippine semiconductor and electronics industry remains to be our top industry contributor to the economy. It accounts for about 62% of our total exports and is the third largest contributor to our manufacturing gross value added with a share of 11%. The Philippines is an indispensable part of the electronics global value chain and a center of excellence for electronic manufacturing services. The industry hosts about 500 global semiconductor and electronic companies and employs 3.2 million direct and indirect workers. We are targeting more investments in the manufacturing of drones, smartphones, solar wearables, and augmented medical applications, microsatellites, 3D printers, and collaborative robots, of course. Next, please. The automotive industry has 369 firms engaged in the assembly and parts manufacturing, employing 80,501 workers. And the Philippines is host to automotive companies such as Mitsubishi, Toyota, Honda, Yazaki, Furukawa Electric, among others. And let me also mention that our focus is also geared towards supporting the growth and development of the EV sector in the country, along with battery storage manufacturing. Next, please. The Philippines is one of the world's richly endowed countries in terms of mineral resources. There are around 9 million hectares, that's 30% of the country's total land area, that has mineral potentials. And among the opportunities are the so-called green metals could be used for downstream industries such as EV battery manufacturing and as well as to support wiring harnesses production. The Philippine copper industry produces 287,000 dry metric tons of copper concentrates annually and has 330,000 metric ton annual copper cathode capacity. The Philippines is home to an estimated 1.1 billion metric ton of copper reserves. We through the development of a wire rod casting facility and higher value copper products. The Philippines is also one of the major sources of nickel worldwide. We ranked 6th in nickel reserves and 2nd in nickel production. The country has total nickel reserves amounting to 2 billion metric tons. Next, please. So, next slide. Okay. So, apart Larry Lopez a while ago, we also enacted the Philippine Competition Policy Act to level the business playing field in the country. Legislations such as the revised Corporation Code, the 11th Foreign Investment Negative List, and the Transnational Higher Education Act allow foreign companies to do business in more sectors in the country. Next, please. So to conclude, the Philippines has highly talent with focus on 3 global value chain clusters: industrial, manufacturing, and transport, along with technology, media, and telecommunication. And the third is health and life science. The Philippines is positioned as a manufacturing and services hub destined to other key markets in Asia, the Americas, Europe, and the rest of the world at preferential rates through our regional trading agreement of preferences. The Philippine government continues to improve its business climate through strategic policy reforms to make it easier to do business in the country and further encourage and attract more foreign direct investments to the Philippines. We are ready to work with you and make it happen for you as you explore opportunities and pursue diversification and expansion strategies. The Philippines is your partner in post-pandemic.
Thank you very much, Undersecretary Aldaba, for a very comprehensive discussion on the immense business opportunities and prospects that the Philippines has to offer to our potential and existing investors. And now, to share their experiences in investing and doing business in the Philippines, we are very fortunate to have with us top management executives from 3 world-class and renowned private companies. We have Technology Corporation. HiP is considered as one of the largest and fastest growing integrated contract manufacturers in the region. It had set up its operations in the Philippines and has partnered with the famous European company that produces household appliances such as vacuum cleaners, hair dryers, and air purifiers. We will also hear from Mr. Tan Hee Jun, CEO of China Telecom International Company Limited. China Telecom in the Philippines, it has entered in a notable partnership which aims to build and operate a new nationwide network. Last but not the least, we also have Mr. Toshiyuki Yakaike, President of Terumo Philippines Corporation. TPC is a manufacturing subsidiary of Terumo Corporation of Japan and has been in the Philippines for over 2 decades. It produces single-use medical devices that are being used in the Philippines and are exported to Peru. Let us all welcome them and listen to their testimonials.
Hi, this is Oliver De Castro, General Manager of Hype Philippines Technology Corporation. It's already been a year when Hype contacted me to join their company for a startup here in the Philippines. Thinking of who will going to start up a company during this pandemic while other businesses are really trying hard to survive. But eventually, I joined the company looking at how a big opportunity that IP also seen in the Philippines. It's very difficult and very challenging at the beginning. All of these challenges we've been able to overcome with the help from our headquarters in Singapore, from our customers, as well as those private sectors and government agencies that assisted us from the beginning until we set up the plan and uh, ran our first production. As a proof of our success, to be able to set up our plant from renovation, receiving of equipment, qualification of our machines and processes within the span of 3 months. And on the fourth month, we already been in production and ramping up for the next 6 months. Last year, company, and after 8 months, we are already at 1,500 and counting. All I can say is that with the right planning and execution in place, the right discipline, and dedicated people, everything is going to be possible. So, if I'm going to start all over again, definitely I'm still going to be choosing the Philippines. Again, thank you for this opportunity and have a good day.
His Excellency President Duterte, Honorable Secretary Lopez from DTI, Honorable distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Here is Dr. Tan Yijun, CEO of China Telecom Global. It's my honor and pleasure to attend the event today. The Philippines, Asia's partner in post-pandemic recovery, hosted by DTI BOI. The Philippines, as a major member of ASEAN and APEC, is an emerging market. During the past few years, the Philippines has been experiencing rapid economic growth with sustained and stable economic vitality. The Philippines is gaining an increasingly important international influence. In recent years, the construction and operation of telecommunication infrastructure has become an important cornerstone of global digital transformation. And the fastest growing industries, empowering the acceleration of digitalization. In emerging markets and developing countries, generally, 4G network is deployed, operated, and improved gradually. On the other hand, in developed countries, there is a tendency of an upgrade from 4G to 5G network. With a comprehensive computation of 5G, the global communications market has been seeing significant growth, witnessing the acceleration era of Internet of Everything. China Telecom is a leading integrated information service provider with rich experience, advanced technology, and global competition, listed in Fortune Global 500 for several years. In the telecommunications operations, China Telecom focuses on continuous investment in Asia market to enhance the ability of digital infrastructure connectivity across this region. In the Philippines, by participating in the third new major player project named NMP project, China Telecom will contribute to the social and economic development of the Philippines. Starting from the efforts from its Philippine partners, invests billions of dollars in this greenfield project to build and operate a new nationwide network. With a considerable large investment and higher standard network commitments, the project is targeted to bring rapid development in infrastructure construction, to provide high quality, high speed, and affordable telecom services to economic perspective. This project provides an opportunity to further improve the speed and quality of information flow, promote digital transformation, and foster digital applications. Further, this project also intends to improve the quality of life and work of the Philippine people, to accelerate the deployment of leading telecom technologies and standards, such as 5G in the Philippines, and reboost economic. As we all know, large-scale communications infrastructure investment is bound to bring new market opportunities and create huge market spaces for the related industries and companies to expand and innovate, thus finally greatly driving economic development. The efficient communication network provided by the NMP project will reduce transaction costs, thereby improving the efficiency of financial other services. It will also facilitate the generation of new organizational models and business processes, such as online education and training, e-commerce. The NMP project will further enrich the local handset terminal market in the Philippines and stimulate the market vitality. As a large-scale investment and a construction project, the NMP project has not only contributed 30,000 employment in the Philippines. Moreover, China Telecom is always concerned about the social responsibility, especially during the pandemic. We have made several donations to the communities and the hospitals constantly, by developing huge efforts to constructing and operating, while laying digital infrastructure foundations for anti-pandemic, supporting the efficiency and the connection for the jobs for the Philippine people. Lastly, China Telecom will further invest more resources in the NMP project by working more closely and competently together with various government agencies, and business partners. Let us create a life of speed, a society of quality, communications, and full success. Thank you all.
I am Toshiyuki Akaike, President of Telmo Philippine Corporation. It is an honor to have this opportunity to introduce our company to you. I also would like to extend our sincere appreciation to DTI, BOI, and PEZA for the continuous support to us. Telmo Philippine Company, Telmo Corporation. Telmo Corporation has 32 manufacturing sites worldwide and markets the product in over 160 countries. This slide is showing our main production. TPC is producing single-use disposable medical devices as shown in this picture. There are syringes, hypodermic needle, safety needles, and peripheral intravenous catheter. We are located at Laguna Technopark, which is a PEZA industrial zone, 1 hour drive down south from Metro Manila. The start of operation is June 2000. Now we have a total of 3,100 employees we call associate working in TPC. The product produced by TPC is supplied to over 70 countries around 24/7. We have many equipment for our production of medical device, starting from molding, assembling, printing, packaging, and sterilization. This global map shows you the location of our customers. The size of the circle indicates the sales volume. From Philippines, we export our product to many countries. Our products are also used in many machines for mass production. The concept of our production system is automation process incorporated with human intervention. This concept makes process much simpler and reducing the risk of the trouble. For our stable operation, the supporting team in TPC are also operating 24 hours. It is important for quick troubleshooting to achieve stable operation. Development to leverage the strengths of the TPC associate. One of growing business at TPC, B2B business to pharmaceutical company. This is just one example of medicine kit adapting our product as an injection device. Pharmaceutical customer has higher expectation on quality control and conduct regular audit to confirm the supplier's quality management system. So our operation, including quality management system, is all English based. From the viewpoint of customer, it is a great advantage of ability of smooth communication and auditing using the global language, English. Although we are still suffering from many challenges under COVID pandemic, TPC Associate always carry out our TPC spirit, proactive approach, and having cheerful mindset under all circumstances. It is what makes TPC a unique entity among Telmo Group. Thank you for your listening. I hope my presentation could help you to study the benefit of the investment in the Philippines. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, GM De Castro, CEO Tan, and insights in doing business in the Philippines. We have now come to the end of our webinar. Today's event highlighted the recent Philippine economic developments, outlook, and recovery programs. It also presented the bright prospects and the immense business opportunities in the country during the pandemic and post COVID 19. We also listened to our friends from the private sector who shared their experiences in being steadfast and resilient while doing business in the Philippines, even during these challenging times. Happen in the Philippines. We are your partner for post pandemic recovery. Thank you very much for joining to our guest speakers from the government and private sector, and to all of you for joining us in our virtual economic briefing today, entitled The Philippines, Asia's Partner to Post Pandemic Recovery. QR codes will be flashed later so you can get the contact details of the various TTI units, including our Philippine Trade and Investment Information and Business Opportunities, interests, and concerns. We also welcome your feedback for today's event. Again, I'm your host, Jamish. Thank you very much and have a great day, everyone.